Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like that stream down below. You guys know the drill. It starts at 100 likes. We're 79 out of 100 the way there. We have 200 live viewers already. Make sure you guys like the stream. We have a lot to talk about. You got a big drama brewing between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, although it does seem as if there are potential signs that it could be cooling. But still, I mean, the toothpaste is out of the tube on this one. Elon massively messed up. I don't even care if you agree with him about the big, beautiful bill, which means that you probably, in my view, we're going to try to be nice here and extend the olive branch out to people's opinions that may not be the most informed. But let's just say you agree that it's a bad bill with Elon. Elon's antics are just insane. And the same people that will defend Elon's antics are the same people that will just throw a temper tantrum every time Donald Trump, most hilariously, handles opponents in the political arena in the Trump fashion. And they'll say, oh, it's horrible. It's actually funny. This is more sad than funny. And we're gonna get down to what's really in the bill, what the bill actually does, because there's so many people that are spreading around, for some reason or another, the lies of the left about this bill. And you have kind of two different groups of people, the people that are like the Rand Paul types, and then you have people like Stephen Miller who actually are setting the narrative themselves and doing a pretty damn good job of it. And that's definitely like the divide you have, and Elon Musk is kind of siding with the people that, in my opinion, don't have the best interest. So we're going to put the face cam on because we hit 100 likes. So we're going to put the cam on in a second here. Let me see. But still, guys, like up the stream, subscribe if you're new, and hit that bell so you never miss another stream. But here we are. We are here, and Elon Musk decided to already out of the gate throw a tantrum because you have this guy who says that the bill is a problem and that we have to kill the bill. He was talking about that for days. Kill the bill, he said. Wouldn't exactly say why, but then he's like, well, it's not about the electric vehicle mandate, because that was the main accusation a lot of people, Donald Trump himself, when pressed, were throwing out about Elon, was this guy doesn't like the bill because it has that, electric vehicle incentive that it got rid of it essentially. And it incentivized kind of the opposite. It had subsidies, continued oil subsidies, did not continue green energy subsidies. He's not happy about that. I understand why you might be against all subsidies. Like I said, no bill is going to be perfect, especially with this Congress. You have to understand that you have to pass through Trump's agenda and you have to do something. And you're going to possibly risk throwing out a solid piece of legislation that can pass for no piece of legislation at all. Zero piece of legislation that's going to be solid. If you want to break it up into a bunch of little bills, oh, that debt ceiling's going to be raised. You think the debt ceiling is not going to be raised with this Congress? Are you that delusional? Of course it's going to be raised, but it's going to be raised in a separate bill, and it's going to be determined on the terms of Chuck Schumer, not on the terms of Donald Trump. And that's a problem. And Elon decides to say that without me, Trump would have lost the election. So is he really talking about, him buying Twitter? Because I think you could make the case that if Elon did not buy Twitter and turn it into X, that you would not have the same political climate. You would not have the same cultural climate. But was that the number one determining factor, in my opinion, for why Donald Trump is currently in the White House? Maybe not. Maybe not. It helped, I believe, but maybe not. And so did Elon's endorsement of Trump, which came when Trump was ahead in the polls by 2 to 3 points in the popular vote. What did he do? He won the popular vote by roughly that much. So either way, did Elon help Donald Trump to an extent? Of course. Did he make himself the determining factor? I don't think so. Yet I could sit up here and say, well, we galvanized how many volunteers through just several videos we made about the topic on this channel. That had a massive, massive impact, probably could have gotten out, tens of thousands of votes. But there's so many different factors at play that I don't think a single person could take credit for the victory. And then he goes out there and says Republicans would be at a 2-seat Senate majority instead of a 6-seat Senate majority. I don't think that Elon Musk was responsible for Bernie Moreno's victory, because that would have been that tipping point seat that would have flipped it back to 51 for the Democrats. It was not likely to happen. He was well-funded, no thanks to Elon Musk, and he didn't have to fund him. But he's basically trying to take control and saying, well, I padded your numbers, so listen to me. That's not how this works. That is not how this works. You don't get to claim the entire mantle of the White House because you helped somebody achieve victory, as many, many people helped that same person achieve victory. But while Elon Musk was out there campaigning with Donald Trump, Elon Musk was not in opposition to anything that Donald Trump was saying regarding extending the tax cut. And then Elon Musk goes on Twitter and he posts about how, he retweeted a post saying, okay, gut the bill. He said, get rid of the tax cuts. That's not something that's going to resonate with anybody, let alone Trump's voter base. They want the tax cuts. These are people that are middle class by and large. It helps them. Even if you didn't get a tax cut because your taxes couldn't be cut anymore and you're in the lower income brackets, under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which would be renewed, they saw their income brackets as a percentage rate rise significantly higher than the top 20% for the first time in history, or at least going back decades upon decades. Reagan didn't have that during his tax cut, but Donald Trump had it during his tax cut. And for those who are upset about the bill because it doesn't cut enough, they can't coherently explain why it doesn't cut enough. They'll say there's not enough Doge cuts, but Doge cuts can't be included in a mandatory spending bill. They have to be included in a discretionary spending bill. And if you want to get on Mike Johnson's case about not bringing them to the forefront, be my guest. But still, that is misplaced anger about this specific bill. The specific bill also codifies the immigration agenda for Donald Trump into law. A lot of those executive orders, but also expands the capacity for mass deportations to be significantly higher. We're talking about doubling, tripling, quadrupling the current rate at a baseline level under the big, beautiful bill. That's a part of the bill. It's a necessary part of the bill, and we need to make sdon't want to have 60 votes to pass that bill. We want it to be able to pass now, and we're going to need to be able to do that in this reconciliation package, which is kind of what it serves the purpose of being. So you have that. It enacts mass deportations, which is going to cause a lot of foreign-born workers to fall out of the workforce who don't pay taxes, and then you're going to have a lot more Americans in the workforce paying taxes. That's going to boost revenue. The remittance taxing, that's going to boost revenue. but also it's going to incentivize corporations to make things in America to pay, they're going to pay less of a corporate tax to do so, but there's going to be more corporations that are going to be doing that. And what would that exactly do? Well, that would cause more revenue and more investment and more jobs, which in turn, if you look at it, higher wages, more tax revenue. It pays for itself, and it doesn't even talk about the $1.6 trillion in Medicaid and food stamp reductions, because what it shows is that, we're not going to cut Medicaid, we're not getting rid of Medicaid, but if you can work and you're not working and you're not actively seeking employment, you shouldn't be on Medicaid, because you are wasting the time. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy, and you're wasting money. You're wasting money of the federal government first and foremost. That's the main concern. So you also have the food stamp issue, because a lot of people will be on food stamps, and some people might need to be on food stamps. We're not trying to take people's food stamps away, but at the same time, if they are abusing the food stamps on luxury foods or foods that are making these people unhealthy, then those requirements need to be in place, because food stamps should be for food that people need. People will say, well, you're telling people what they can and can't eat. Well, they're using it on the government dime. If they're already on the government dime, then that's a problem. You want to have ice cream? Fine, have ice cream, but you're not going to be able to use government benefits to buy ice cream if they're specifically supposed to be to, make sure you don't starve. You need to be having like actual food with that. You don't need to be, spending money on things, but that's not really the point. The bottom line is it cuts a lot. It cuts a lot. Now there's increases in defense spending, things like that. We could have that debate, but when you look at it, the OMB reviewed the report, and the report is garbage, like many CBO reports are garbage about this bill. They are very, very much liberal. They have had that slant for a while. In regard to the first tax cut, they were way off. Even the Biden administration CBO, they had to revise upwards of their pre-tax cut revenue projections, because that's how bad their initial projections were. Even the Biden CBO had to go out there and make that change on the fly in 2022. But when you look at the bill, it actually reduces the deficit when you adjust for the baseline, because they use an unrealistic baseline, and you look at how much money it's going to save in mandatory savings. That is the most in history. And there's plenty of other externalities within this bill that they don't want to cover. They don't talk about the investment that could raise revenues. They don't talk about how mass deportations can raise revenues, or even tariffs. The CBO itself came out and said that tariffs are going to add like $2 trillion to reversing the deficit. Like, if that happens, you'd be in a surplus. I'm not saying that it's even going to happen, because I don't trust their projections either way. But if you look at this in a common sense fashion, this notion of, well, this bill's going to drive up the debt. It's not. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did not drive up the debt. This is not going to drive up the debt. Elon Musk is panicking over what? The fact that middle-class families are going to have a tax cut, the fact that illegal aliens are going to be deported, the fact that illegal aliens aren't going to be able to use and abuse government services in certain sanctuary states that are supposed to be reserved for American citizens. So what exactly is the deal here? Why would you oppose such legislation? What pork is he talking? Oh, there's a little bit of pork in there for the oil companies or whatever. And a lot of that is also the fact that we need more drilling. And if you drill more, energy prices go down, which is a good thing. And what does that mean? It means you're going to be able to save money at the pump, and you're going to be able to spend money in the economy on other things. And that's also going to find a way to raise revenues in a roundabout fashion. And this is something that so many people don't happen to understand. They don't get it for some reason, but it's 100% true, 100% true. And this bill is something that does far more good than it does harm. There's no need to make the perfect the enemy of the good. A lot of what it does is extend the tax cuts, implement the agenda on immigration and taxes that Donald Trump campaigned on. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. They can't legally put no tax on Social Security in this bill. They have to do a roundabout bill for that, and they also have a major deduction for seniors that kind of is like a loophole that still gets the job done. So either way, this is a bill that needs to pass, but Elon Musk is having a temper tantrum about it for one reason or another. And the same guy says, oh no, I got him elected. And then he goes out there and he says that Donald Trump was on the Epstein files. So apparently you work for this guy, you had your son around this guy, and then you're insinuating that he's like some guy who's, hanging out with these pedophile guys knowingly and is covering up for them, and that's why they haven't been made public. But at the same time, I don't think that these files exist, to be honest, whether you want them to exist or not. I think everybody wants to see them in some capacity. Some people care more than others, but still, I don't think these files exist because the same corrupt system that has them, that won't hand them over, you really think they exist? If the system went in and took the guy out, don't you think that they would at least have some replacement files? It's probably what Dan Bongino's looking at, and he's like, no, he actually did kill himself, because that's what they actually show, because there is a cover-up. And it's much, much deeper than most people think. It's not like if the files are out that a lot of people are going to change their minds on, certain people. We all know who was involved. But Donald Trump, it wouldn't make sense for him to be involved, because when you look at it, this is the only guy, the only high-profile guy who complied with subpoenas about Epstein in the late 2000s, who threw him out of Mar-a-Lago in the late 2000s for his antics when he realized them. So when you look at the big picture, you have a powerful guy who was involved with a lot of powerful people, billionaires in New York. Yeah, Donald Trump is one of them. Doesn't mean Donald Trump was on the island. He used the plane to fly to New Jersey or something like that. RFK Jr. is another example of somebody who, he was probably closer with Epstein than Trump was, but he was flying on the jet to go hunting in Montana or something. There's no proof that he ever went down to the island, but still, you had a lot of people during his presidential campaign, the left would bring that up when they would try to demonize his campaign because they thought that it was taking votes away from Biden. And ironically enough, they tried to keep him on the ballot when they realized that he was endorsing Trump, and then he would be taking votes away from Trump. They wanted him on. It's funny how that works. But regardless, when you look at the big picture here, Donald Trump, Elon Musk is working with this guy, is friendly with this guy, and now he's just going off. He said the tariffs would cause a recession, the same guy who was in support of Trump's agenda. And it's if you actually believe this, you were his right-hand man. Why would you not try to talk him out of it? You allegedly have all the power in the world, according to you. You're the richest man alive. You're one of the smartest people alive. But still, when it comes to this stuff, he's not very bright. He's letting the ketamine get the best of him. He's going out there making a fool out of himself. And there's really no justification for a lot of what he's saying. And it's you expect to be in Trump's good graces when you're saying this stuff. You're not, by the way. The left doesn't want him. The right now, big portions of it won't want him. You have maybe a slim portion of the online right who supports him. And you have a lot of people who are not taking a side on this either way. And I tell those people, what exactly is your position on this? Do you actually think Elon's behavior is defensible? Because the answer, in my opinion, is no, it's not. And so he drops this, but then simultaneously goes on record and claims that he wants to make peace. He would be better off making peace with Trump. So you believe Trump's involved with Epstein, and you want to make peace with them? How does this exactly add up? It's all Elon just shooting from the hip. He's acting like a clown. And yeah, I understand the argument. It would probably be better if everybody got along. It would be better if Elon would remain this person that could apply financial pressure on certain politicians and kind of be the right-wing George Soros. But the bottom line is George Soros is a shadowy figure. Elon Musk is somebody who's very open about literally everything and tweets on very low impulse control. George Soros, he's a shadowy figure. He kind of remains in the shadows. He is somebody that is funding a lot of Democrat candidates, but he does it quietly. When Elon tried to do it in Wisconsin, the money wasn't even spent properly, and it only backfired and caused hundreds of thousands of Democrats to show up for a Supreme Court race. They probably didn't even know what their own candidate looked like, but still, it helped them out and it helped them win, and they were able to embarrass the guy. So either way, Elon Musk needs to really go back to the drawing board here and analyze what the hell he's doing. Now, Donald Trump was relatively calm. He was not attacking him back with a lot of vitriol. Some people might be surprised by that, but he said Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave, took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody wanted, and he just went crazy. Elon claims he was fine with that, but the actions do speak louder than words. In this case, also, Trump says the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts, because Elon went out there and said, okay, well, we're going to pull out of this deal with the Trump administration at SpaceX. And then, Trump says, fine, we'll get rid of it anyways. Trump also said, I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress, record cut in expenses, which is true. They never talk about that. $1.6 trillion plus, and the biggest tax cut ever given. A lot of that is just extending the current tax code. If it doesn't pass, there will be a 68% tax increase and things far worse than that. I didn't create this mess. I'm here to fix it. This puts our country on a path of greatness. Make America great again. That's from Donald Trump. And it is a wildly popular bit. Like, people want to pay lower taxes. People would like to cut spending that is wasteful. People don't want illegal aliens on government benefits. They want them deported. This bill does all of that. It gets Mexico to pay for the wall with the remittance tax. It pays for the wall itself, and then the remittance tax is in there. So that would be a promise kept from the first campaign that everybody says, oh, he can't do. It's impossible. This would make sure that that's a reality. But it's like all these people talking about the debt and deficit. Stephen Miller, right here. There are two ways to raise the debt ceiling with Chuck Schumer at 60 votes, higher taxes, higher spending, liberal wish list, or in the reconciliation at 50, where you get those permanent tax cuts, permanent welfare reform, and permanent border security. It is a no-brainer, but so many Republicans are grandstanding for one reason or another. You have people like Tom Tillis who say, no, it doesn't have enough green energy subsidies. What the hell is this guy talking about? Is he trying to lose next year? Is he trying to lose? And then you have Ron Johnson, who clearly, I don't know if he's too old or what the deal is with him, but he can't get it through his head that this bill is not going to, it's not going to be able to be a bill that stops the debt ceiling from being raised. You can kick the can down the road and that the Democrats are going to find a way to do it themselves. Like, they don't get it. They don't comprehend it. These people are, very unpragmatic. Rand Paul, it's to the point where it's counterproductive. Rand Paul, who's become a libertarian. He was libertarian for a while. He's a lolbertarian. He used to be I would say he used to be more of a pragmatic libertarian, actually. He ran as a Republican. He supported Trump even when he disagreed with him. He supported his, election bids in 2016, 2020. He didn't even support it in 2024, which probably was more crucial than the previous two elections combined. Like, you expect me to sit up here and say, oh no, he has principles. He has principles. Principles are the downfall of this party because the other side doesn't play with them. You have that so you can make sure that your party will be prevented from having any victories on policy out of principles. But then all the bad things still are going to come from the other side, and you'll be able to say, well, at least I didn't let them pass under a Republican president with all of the beneficial things that would have kept these people out of power. Like, these people are scumbags. I don't care what anybody says about Rand Paul. Why are we supposed to like this guy? Why are we supposed to like these people? Elon Musk, I like the fact that he helped Trump win. I like the fact that he bought Twitter. He bought a social media platform that was huge, that was able to control the discourse. But I'm not going to sit up here and say he's infallible. Who the hell does he think he is? If you're going to come out here and attack this bill that's going to improve my life, improve the lives of pretty much all of my listeners, improve the lives of literally everybody in this country who's not an illegal alien or somebody who's a criminal or somebody who is abusing welfare or Medicaid, then I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. Are you on the right side of history, or are you purposely trying to stab Donald Trump in the back? Because this is preventing it is a big, beautiful bill. We could argue about how we can make it better all day. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the Senate doing that. If they have a list of concerns and they don't impact the clear objective of the bill, if it doesn't, prevent the bill from getting I guess you would say the tax cuts removed or the border security removed. I'm okay with listening. I'm open-minded. If you have some suggestions, feel free, because the bill is not perfect, because no bill is perfect. But relatively speaking, this is a landmark piece of legislation. It would cement Trump's legacy. It would add jet fuel to an economy that desperately needs some jet fuel. I don't know what to tell these people, man. I don't know what to tell these people. But Elon just had a generational crash out for the ages. And there's just so many things here. That's a Truth Social post that's not from Trump. That was a joke. But you have all these accounts saying, oh, people shouldn't forget Elon risked a lot to buy Twitter. I'm not forgetting that. But you don't have to glaze the guy when he's clearly in the wrong. And I don't even know if I don't think this might not be a real tweet from Elon, but he did say it in the past about tariffs being popular. And then a week later, oh no, the tariffs will cause a recession. So why didn't you try to stop him when you had influence? Do you just not like this country? Do you not like the people within this country? Do you want the economy to fail, or are you full of shit? I know it's the latter, and I hope it's the latter. There we have on record Donald Trump. They did an interview with an attorney from the Epstein days, and he said Trump was the only one who would comply with the subpoena. So if he was guilty, why would he comply, but none of these other people comply? Again, it's the MAGA curse. We look at what happened. Remember a guy from Florida named Ron DeSantis? At least he was smart enough to have a bunch of online psychopaths called the DeSimps attack Trump, and he was smart enough to stay out of it. Some people might say cowardly, but it was smart on his part. Still, his national prospects, not very high. But it's like you have a good bill, and you have this guy who is just so high on ketamine, he doesn't even know what's in the bill, who is throwing away his reputation, because if you don't have, the Republicans on your side and you've pissed off the Democrats to the point of no return, who do you have? Who does Elon Musk have on his side at this stage in the game? Like, nobody. He'll have like a few terminally online people, and that's about it. So yeah, this guy helped Trump win more than Elon. That's true, unfortunately. But it's 100% true. This movement was here before him. It'll be here long after he's gone from politics, because he doesn't understand what's in a bill he's never even read, which is true. And it's like you have a flip-flopper. What exactly caused the guy to change? I don't know. Is it drugs? Because it's not money. I don't believe it's money. I don't think Elon Musk can be bought. Elon Musk is the richest man alive. So clearly there's something going on. Did Trump give him the black eye? I don't think so. But, you have a lot of people making that joke, making that claim. And is there some truth to it? I don't know. Probably not. But Donald Trump clapping back relatively calmly, just saying, I'm here to fix it, make America great again, saying, I don't mind Elon turning against me. It's definitely a different vibe. You don't have him attacking Elon with a lot of vitriol, partially because I think he knows the whole thing is ridiculous. I think he knows that Elon is going through some stuff and he doesn't want to go too hard on him or whatever it is. But either way, the bill needs to pass. It's a good piece of legislation. I'm sure some people in the super chats are not going to be happy about me for saying that, and I'm prepared to take on these super chats. And we have a goal of super chats. I believe it's 20 super chats, 5 and above. But Trump's approval rating still relatively stable despite that garbage poll from Atlas Intel, where, by the way, they botched Poland. They botched Poland, didn't they? Oh, that was brutal. But they'll never know. It's the gold standard now, which it's funny. And they were good. They were good. I'll give them credit. But the guy's like going full Alan Lichtman with his like ego when it comes down to his polling. And I just don't want to entertain the notion of, oh, it's infallible. We were more accurate in many states. We were more accurate, by the way, in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. And Qantas, which uses very similar methodology to ours, not identical, but very similar methodology, and they ended up being, I believe, a hair more accurate. We were number 4. I think they were like number 2, but they're good people, and they have Trump positive in terms of his approval rating. So his approval is positive. It would be a lot more positive if he was able to go out there on the campaign trail for the midterms and start touting these victories, start saying, hey, wait a minute, Look what we were able to do. I extended your tax cut. The Democrats wanted to raise them. I stopped it. Look what we did with the border. Look what we did with the deportations. Look what we did with the remittance taxes. Look how we're incentivizing, companies to come into the country. All these talking points would be phenomenal for Republicans to go out there and hold the House in the midterms, assuming you have a decent economy, or at least an improving economy. It's really hard to have a worse economy than you had when Donald Trump took office. Of course, you have all the tariff fears, but I think a lot of them are subsiding. And now they're going into this taco stuff. They'll say, he's taco. He won't put the tariffs on. But the tariffs, they say, are going to ruin the economy. Are they, if this is their messaging, it's awful. If they're trying to bait Trump into doing it, I still think it's awful. It's not going to work, but let them believe that it's going to, because it's ridiculous. Taco, like, people associate that as like delicious food. They're not going to associate it with, oh, he's not putting on tariffs. And even if so, you're putting in people's heads, if tariffs are so unpopular, that Trump doesn't support an unpopular economic policy, which, again, the tariffs themselves are relatively popular depending on how they're done. Obviously, too much, too fast, you don't want to do that. But, in selective industries across selective countries, if they have a reciprocal tariff, we need to match theirs. All that stuff is relatively popular as a form of protectionism. And we don't need to let the left control the narrative and say that it's not. So that's pretty much it for the monologue, guys. We are going to be getting to the super chats. We have quite a bit of super chats here. Make sure you guys like the stream. Make sure you subscribe. We're 13 out of 20 to our goal, so make sure we can at least hit the goal. I don't know how long we're going to make this stream, but I at least want to go for an hour. So make sure you get your super chats in right now. We're going to start getting to them. Okay, Walk Talk 21 for 10 says, I believe the only reason the Epstein files have not been released is there is no way to weasel out of that in any objective way. I doubt anyone in both parties wants to have that media storm on them. Well, of course it's going to impact people probably in both parties. Doesn't mean it's going to impact Trump himself, but it could impact maybe a couple people that are in his administration somehow that Trump may not even know about. I mean, there's plenty of different factors at play. I just happen to believe that the simplest explanation, the Occam's razor, is the best. You have these people who did bad things and have covered it up. Therefore, they covered it up. And maybe these files don't exist, at least in the, I don't think there's a list of celebrities just lying around in some, Epstein files, file folder in the Southern District Attorney of New York's office. I don't believe that list exists. Now, I'm not saying that you can't find any of that information somewhere. I'm sure that there are bits and pieces and fragments, and we've gotten fragments about Bill Clinton and, Stephen Hawking, the wheelchair guy. I don't even know how the hell that would even be physically possible that he was involved, but I remember when that came out, and it was pretty amusing, more so than anything. Johnny Heartdog for $20 says, I agree with Musk's concerns about the bill, but I don't agree how they're going about it. Poor Musk got his ego crushed, and now he's acting like a spoiled baby, and Trump is responding in kind. They both have big egos. It's keeping them from coming to an agreement. Well, about the bill, though, I will say, what is your concern about the bill? Because a lot of this talk about the bill is focused on it's going to run up the debt, it's going to run up the deficit. The people that are saying that have been wrong about literally everything. They were wrong about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act by a figure of $2 trillion. And then you have all these other projections on the bill that are more positive. Now, we want to talk about the pork. We could talk about the pork if you're going to call oil subsidies pork, but you could also make the case that that's going to incentivize more drilling leases to make sure that we could drill. And that's also part of Trump's agenda. So it's a little bit of a give and take. I do think that all in all, what it does is it's an investment more so than something that is just going to lead to massive debt and massive deficits, which, by the way, we already have. And as for the debt ceiling, it's probably going to be increased anyways. You either have it in this bill or it's going to be done in a Schumer bill. And it's going to get 60 uniparty votes. So I would rather have it done now in this bill than in another bill that's going to be even more disastrous for the country and spend us in a far worse position. And that's my take on it. UNSC Connor for 5 says Elon was completely out of line with the accusations. He can piss off for all I'm concerned. His tenure in Doge underperformed anyways. Yeah, I mean, he was only able to find about 250 or somewhere in that range, $150 billion, which is better than nothing, but it's not good enough. And they wouldn't really Doge wasn't able to really get into the entitlements. They weren't really able to get into the defense. And that's where the meat of it is. So it's it's good that they're able to cut around the edges a little bit. I want to codify those cuts. It helps, but it was probably not ideal in that front. So American Nerd 1776 for 10 says Elon thinks that he was the only reason Trump won, when in reality there were a lot more factors, along with a lot of different people who helped Trump. Elon was a liability from the start. Well, he's somebody who has you're right, I mean, he has a big ego. I think that's clear. But for him to come out here and say all this wacky stuff about Trump and Epstein and expect any sort of reconciliation with Trump, I mean, Trump is actually a more forgiving guy than a lot of people give him credit for. It may not matter at the end of the day. If Trump thinks that he could find Elon to be useful, he'll keep Elon around. But if I'm Trump, I don't want to associate with this guy. And I think other Republicans look at this and say, this guy's unstable. We don't want to associate with him. The left doesn't want to associate with him. He should just stick to rockets, stick to cars at this point, because he can't roll with the big boys when it comes to politics for some reason. Despite being the wealthiest man alive, one of the smartest people in terms of his IQ, it doesn't translate to political IQ, clearly. Lou says Musk has moments, but he has no friends. Unstable. FM32047 says a bit cautious, hoping Elon won't cause a blue wave. Well, I don't think Elon is the main reason why this bill is not passing through, but he's definitely not helping. So Mr. Fahrenheit for 5 says my sheriff was arrested by Homeland Security today for racketeering, Osceola County, Florida. Interesting. Mitchell Ryan for 5 says, do you know if we're supposed to be getting those Doge dividends? Probably not. I would say no. I don't even think we need them. The whole point of Doge is not to give money back to us, more so than it is to give or to cut down the deficit. I do think that extending the tax cuts is more than enough, in my opinion, and definitely could also lower the deficit, because when you have lower taxes, you have more investment, you have more spending, you have more investment, you have more jobs. I mean, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they said it would lower revenues for taxes. It raised revenues. Now they moved the goalposts because that's all they can do, because they were wrong. These people are wrong about everything. It's insane. It's absurd. So FM32047 says random hot takes. Sununu and Kemp being whips in 26 will result them running against wife beater Warnock and Hassan to win both Senate seats in 28. I could see Kemp doing it. I don't know about Sununu. I don't trust Sununu. I think Kemp has an interest in the Senate. That's why he teased a run. I think 2028, he might see that as a better opportunity. I think it could work out in the end that way because Ossoff is weaker. You could run a solid but not as electorally strong candidate against him and win, and then you could have Kemp go out there and beat Warnock. I think that would be a very good give and take, a good trade. Not the biggest fan of Kemp, but I'd rather have him than Warnock, and hopefully you could pair him with a much better senator that could keep him in check or at least round out that Senate delegation in a swing state that is moving to the left. You're not going to have a perfect conservative like America First senator in a state like Georgia the way you'll have in like Ohio or what you should have in like Iowa. It's just a different state than it was 10 years ago. Atlanta has grown like crazy. I'm not happy about it, but that's the way it is. Logan Agee with a member chat says, using this as a PSA, the Buffalo, New York public school system is currently under fire for vile actions. Unsubscribe podcast has the scoop, could flip New York governorship. Interesting. I'd have to look into that one. American Nerd 1776 says, if Elon thinks Trump is a PDF, then why did he let his kid be around him? The more you think of what he claims, the more he looks as insane as Loomer. Well, I think Loomer is very sane, comparatively speaking, to how Elon acted today. But it's just like, yeah, if you actually think Elon, or if you think Trump is some evil guy he was running with Epstein and covering up for pedophilia. Why would you let your son hang around him so much? And why would you want to make peace with him? That's strange. That's very strange. This is not like, you can't be throwing around allegations like that. People will say, well, Trump says wacky things too. He said Ted Cruz's dad killed JFK. The difference is Trump has aura. Trump is funny. It's not to be taken as seriously. Whereas when Elon does it, like the guy's just like, he comes off like a spurg. He comes off like somebody that it's like, whoa, this is a little suspect. This guy is strange. He tries to make himself be taken more seriously. And he's like, oh, we're going to make our own political party. Yeah, good luck getting 1% of the vote, Elon. Like, seriously. It's ridiculous. Tom Otto for 10 says, I think Elon initially got butthurt because of his NASA pick being rescinded as he obsesses over space stuff. I trust in Trump and Miller, not autistic oralist Elon, who doesn't know how politics works. Thank you for the 10, Tom. American Nerd 1776 says Elon's going out there thinking he's the smartest poker player in the room when in reality Trump not only holds the cards, but he owns the casino. Yeah, Elon's got money. That part is true. Nobody's trying to deny that Elon has money. But at the end of the day, he doesn't really have the power. 20 years from now, he may have more power than Trump because Trump won't be president 20 years from now and Elon will be very successful. But the president's the head executive of the country, the most powerful man in the world, one would argue. Elon does not have the cards in this situation. Trump we saw what the executive can do. Just like Biden and his goons went after Trump, Trump could go after Elon. I'm not saying he should. I think the Democrats would. It doesn't even matter if he grovels to them on his hands and his feet. But when it comes down to Trump, yeah, he could go after his businesses. He could do all sorts of stuff. Like, you don't want to mess with the president. I'm not saying that he should. I'm just saying he could. And that threat is more than enough. More than enough. Because if this guy's turning on me and he's calling me all these names, what would you do in that situation? You probably would say, nope, I'm canceling your contracts. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to make sure I'm going to make you as broke as I possibly can and ruin your reputation because you're trying to ruin mine and you don't hold the cards. That's pretty much what it is. Sven Olsen's thoughts on the New York City mayoral election. I've been made to understand the Dem primary is a clown show and there's many declared candidates. Yeah, you have some foreign guy who's like a socialist, but he tries to like pass himself off as articulate. And then you have the disgraced Andrew Cuomo. I mean, that's really what it is. It's probably going to go blue because it's New York City, but who knows what's going to happen. Hopefully we can make it as close as possible. Carry some momentum into the governor's race in 26. American Nerd 1776 says Rand Paul's a downgrade from his father. Elon should have been let go after the HB1 stuff. I assume you mean H1B. And that's another thing. I hope they do decouple. And I hope Trump decides to just rip up the H1B program as a middle finger to Elon, or at least scale it back significantly, because it is true. Elon comes late to the party, and he wants to dictate the agenda of the party. That's not how parties work. You don't get to do that. It's like, you want to join the team, fine. You want to help us out, fine. But you're not going to agree with us on everything, and that's okay. Donald Trump, when he ran in 2016, he said, this is a program that is abused for cheap foreign labor in fields where a lot of people are scamming their way in, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And it puts American STEM graduates in the back burner so these companies can raise their profit margins. And that includes Tesla. That includes a lot of companies. And look, we saw it with Elon then. He said, go F yourself in the face. You know, people that will say, you never criticized Elon until now because he went after Trump. It's like, we criticized him then. And that was right when he was buddy-buddy with Trump. We even criticized Trump because, it's common sense. It's like, I disagree with something he said. I try to make sense of it. I'm trying to make sense of Elon. I can't do it. I can't make sense of this guy when he's going out there and making allegations up that don't make sense, or he's pretending to have read a bill and he doesn't understand what the bill does. That's my problem. So let's see. We have more super chats. Sven Olsen for 5 says the Republican Party is too full of bent over conservatives obsessed with optics and media coverage. Well, you are 100% right. 100% right. And I'll tell you what it is. Because you have the left they can at least set the narrative. Donald Trump can set the narrative. It's why he wins his elections. It's why he does so well electorally. It's why he can throw the media for a tailspin. He can set the narrative. He can energize the Republican base. But these other clowns can't do it. For some reason or another, they can't do it. The left, they're incompetent. They're not always good at setting the narrative, but they will set a narrative and hope enough NPCs can go out there and buy it, like Taco, which is so dumb. But in reality, does it help galvanize their base in a special election with 5% turnout for a 40-point overperformance? Sure. But again, those people just typically are the people that vote in every little election. Republicans in many parts of the country do not. And that's why special election results have become absolutely useless, especially in the Trump era. Now, the midterms are going to be a little bit more baseline. Turnout's higher. Still an electorate that's going to favor Democrats by default because it will be slightly less working class. But hopefully we can mitigate that and run some quality candidates that can hopefully peel off some independents to compete. So XJ Cherokee Bear says 225 and dropping. American Nerd 1776 says the bill isn't perfect, but it's the best we've got. I agree. American Nerd 1776 also says Musk v. Trump is Bob Barker v. Adam Sandler 2.0. Mike Oxard for 5 says, so what's the deal with this no AI regulation rule that's in the bill? I don't know if I could vote yes at a bill that included that AI needs regulation. Well, I will say that I think that this is somewhat of a more legitimate critique of the bill, and it just basically says it would have to be handled at the federal level, not the state level. Now, I understand why people could be up in arms about that, but I think you could make the case that it would go both ways. It's like, is Kentucky having a little regulation on AI going to stop the problems with AI? I would lean towards probably not. So I think there's problems with AI, but I don't know if that part of the bill would be enough to get me to say I'm a no on the bill. I think there's question marks about that for sure. I don't think it's perfect. But let's see. Brandon Barajas with $50. Thank you for the big super chat. Appreciate it. Scott B for 5 says, I'm MAGA, but I work in solar. We need the solar TC to survive. I support the bill. If we can keep the solar TC, I just don't want to lose my job. So you're saying you work in solar and there's some solar tax credits that would help, which, again, I understand. I understand where you're coming from. Hopefully that it won't affect your job. But either way, it's spending that I feel like was overspent with this whole green energy stuff in the last 4 years. Now it seems like Trump wants to roll that back a bit, and I think that's what he's getting at. Purple Potato for 2 says, nice view on the BBB, which handler gave it to you. See, this is the problem with these people. They think you can't have a reasoned opinion about a bill. It's like, I look at the bill, I see what it does, I see how it impacts the presidency, how it impacts the country, and I say, this is a good bill. And then I see all these people, they'll say, well, these are talking points. You didn't come up with this yourself. It's like, well, I clearly can read different sources. Just like there's people who probably are working in some firm and get talking points about the bill and might be promoting said talking points about the bill. There's very many people that do the opposite and are in firms that are saying lies about the bill and things that are a problem about the bill. I'm a part of neither of those groups, by the way. I'm just here to say what I believe about this bill. I think it's a good piece of legislation. It needs to be passed. Trump needs to sign it because maybe I'm just a regular person who cares about the tax cut and would like to not have to pay thousands more in taxes next year. Maybe that's what it is. If there's any evidence of me being paid off by the bill, it's because, if this bill passes, it's going to save me money personally, and I understand what's in it. It's going to help the country. And what's good for Trump is good for business. I'm not going to lie about that. So, sign the bill. Pass the bill. Make sure we can get it on his desk. We need to win for the country. Todd Batchelder says, are we going to talk about that nightmarish? We already kind of covered the AI provision. American Nerd 1776 says, hot take, Peter Thiel is better than Elon Musk. Well, Thiel was kind of like the Musk in 2016. It's funny because you have a lot of people that hate Thiel and say that Trump has fallen off since 2016. Well, Thiel supported Trump in 2016 and did not support Trump in 2024 or 2020. So Thiel is definitely a strange fellow. Elon is too, to be fair. But I'm not really, I'm skeptical of both. If they want to give their money to the cause, I'm saying that's a good thing because you need some sort of power structure. You can't just rely on small dollar donations to run a campaign. You have to have some part of the establishment, some successful people in your back pocket. It doesn't even need to be a majority, but it has to be some. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have the resources to compete with the opposition in any way, shape, or form. Krishan Lal for 10 says, I'm scared for 26 and 28. GOP turnout is only good when Trump's on the ballot. Dem turnout is good when literal potatoes are on it. Hopefully the GOP keeps up their get out the vote operation. Well, I agree in terms of special elections. I think presidential elections are different. Obviously, Trump can galvanize a lot of those, low propensity voters to come out and vote for the Republicans, whereas Democrats just have their slate of people that show up for literally everything. And it's a problem in special elections and to a lesser extent midterm years. I'm not super worried about 2028 though, especially because the Democrats, when it comes down to the national conversation, the macro, it's like a dead party. They're awful. They cannot connect with the average voter. And if Vance can go out there and run a competent campaign, I have no qualms about his ability to win. If Trump does a good job over these next 4 years, he may even win by more than Trump won by. It's possible. We don't know what the turnout's going to look like, but is it possible? Absolutely. I mean, you see even Kamala Harris, a horrible candidate, still got 70-some million votes. American Nerd 1776 is, what nickname should Trump give Elon? That's up for him to decide, even if there is a nickname to give. Walk Talk 21 says, I've been listening to the Sean Combs trial, and I personally believe he may get taken out. The way he has been acting and all the stuff coming out, guy's a nut job, but still, what does he know? Well, if it happened with Epstein, it could happen with the the second iteration of a similar trial in a similar state. It's possible. I don't know. But Sam Madsen for 5 says the special election midterm underperformances have seemed to be worse in Wisconsin and Michigan than in Minnesota. Any idea why? I believe it's probably because of the larger portion of the electorate that happens to be like the swing, like working class white voter. Because it's funny because if you look at like 2012 or 2008, Minnesota, I think in 2008, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Minnesota actually was to the right of those two states. I don't know why exactly it is, but I mean, you have a higher floor and a lower ceiling. Also, the Democrats that have run have been complete nut jobs in the midterms in the state of Minnesota. And that kind of has helped, but not enough because the Republican Party is just non-existent and full of clowns in Minnesota. And the other states is not much better. You could make the case it's worse. Wisconsin is getting worse, but I think there's a chance that it could be salvaged. American Nerd 1776 says, what if Elon funds libertarians to screw us over? Well, he's burning his money. It's not even going to make much of an impact at the end of the day, maybe in very close races. But I don't think he's going to go down that road, at least not yet. I mean, he would just be spiteful because if you're going to be burning money to lose just to make other people lose you agree with on 90% of things, then you're just a moron. Crosswalk Guy says it's a 4D chess move. He has the Dems demanding the Epstein files get released now. They're blinded by TDS. They'll get released and no Trump. I don't know. They don't have the cards for that, though. They don't control if they're going to be released or not. So, I mean, it's like the Democrats are just they're taking the bait in a way, but I don't think Elon is doing this feud for 4D chess. I'll be the first to admit it if I'm wrong. But I'm analyzing it the way it is, and I think the more likely course of action is Elon just for some reason was pissed off at Trump and spurred out. Sven Olsen says, I've been debating with others, nonviolent felons getting their Second Amendment rights restored. Any thoughts on this? Yeah, they should be. I mean, there's no reason for them not to have it restored. If you do the crime, do the time. See, I'll agree with the more libertarians aspect of criminal justice reform on this. If you do your crime and do the time, you're more likely to stay out of trouble if you can be reintegrated into society. You should not have as much of a problem getting a job as you do now. You should not have as much of a problem as just living a normal life. And if these are like violent criminals who, killed people, whether it's second degree and then they get released after 40 years or whatever, I think it's a little bit of a different story. But if these are non-violent felons, yeah, I think that they should be able to have access to firearms for protection, for hunting, for whatever. It just depends on their crime. And even the violent felons, after a set period of time, you do the crime, you do the time, it's like you move on. That's the point of the justice system. It's not to cancel your entire existence. I don't even care what you've done. People make mistakes. So long as you've learned from them, obviously if you go back the second time and you do the same thing, then yeah, you're going to get a much harsher punishment. And we should be tough on crime. But I'm saying that if you do the time, you should be reintegrated into society. If you've changed, if you're able to be released, you name it. So Wesley Bruce for 5 says fake fights with supporters is a known Trump tactic to protect them and draw it off of them and onto himself. I mean, is there a fake fight that you can point to in the past? Like, I don't think that this gave me fake fight vibes. It just didn't. But like I said, I'd be the first to admit if I'm wrong. American Nerd 1776 says, though the feud looks bad, I doubt it'll impact 2026. I agree. It's not going to have any impact for the midterms. Most people might forget about it. I think it's more similar to the Trump-Bannon fight, but I don't think that was a fake fight. I think Trump was just genuinely upset that there were allegations about Bannon leaking, and then he had pressure from Kushner to get Bannon out of the inner circle, and he did. And obviously later on they reconciled and everything's fine. But I think it's more similar to that than like a fake fight, because I don't think that was a fake fight either. So let's see. Well, the Pacers did win. Interesting. Somebody put that in chat. I'm kind of surprised. We put a big bet on Indiana because it's like I thought they were really undervalued on Kalshi, and it's definitely good that they're able to take that game one. Ash K2 says, you missed my super chat from last stream. I don't remember what it was. It probably was not that memorable. I'm sorry, but it just probably wasn't. Matt Gagnon for 2 says, do you think America PAC will continue next year? I think it could. I think it could. I mean, will it look the same? I mean, he might decide to back off on politics a little bit, but I assume that the PAC is still, it could operate with different leadership. I know Elon owns it and runs it, or maybe he'll use it to support people like Thomas Massey, because that's, those are his new bedfellows at the rate he's going. So I don't know. Agent Gabe for 5 says, I'm curious why Elon endorsed JD. I'm a big Vance fan, but has he maybe gone to the dark side? If you're talking about a new tweet that he put up, or are you talking about him replying? Because Vance posted that he was doing a podcast with Theo Vaughn and kind of avoided the drama and said, slow news day, what are we going to talk about? And Elon replied and laughed. So I don't know. I think that Elon, the rate things are going, he'll endorse a different person every day. So I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot to prove. I think everybody agrees there's a lot to prove for Vance, and he's got to earn that primary too. He starts off as the favorite. He has my endorsement because it would make the most logical sense. But if somebody else comes along that proves their worth, then they might be able to beat him. And who knows, maybe he could stay on as VP. But either way, I like Vance. I don't know what Elon's exactly doing. I don't think you can take anything Elon's saying right now at face value, because I think he's just doing too much ketamine or something. Like, there's no logical explanation. People will say he's paid off. He's not paid off. You can't pay him off. There's no person that can pay off Elon Musk. He's the richest man alive. Like, is he being coerced? Is his life being threatened? His business is being threatened? I mean, for what? Coming out and saying he doesn't support a bill that already has a little bit of shaky ground in the Senate? Like, I don't know if that's really it. So we'll see. But we have more super chats. American Nerd 1776 for 10. By the way, we hit our goal. Says, and we'll have a quick water break first. But he says, found this on a tweet just now. JD, where are we going? We're sending you to Mars. Elon, just like you always wanted. I don't have my spacesuit. I know, Elon. I know. So, I mean, I assume that's just a joke. Dr. Natterson says, this is a coup attempt. No, it's not a coup attempt. Now it's just Elon losing his mind, which he's done before. With the H-1B stuff, he lost his mind. We did a stream about it at the time. About the bill, he's losing his mind. Can he say what provisions he wants out of the bill? Because you have people that complain and they don't provide solutions. Let's see. Base Cat for two says, which SCOTUS ruling are you looking out for? Well, I don't know what they're going to rule on next. I saw today they ruled on discrimination of straight people in favor of the lady who was discriminated. So it was a affirmative action ruling. They actually ruled the right way. So I don't know. We obviously have rumors about a Bergefell v. Hodges gay marriage being sent back to the States, being somewhere on the docket. I don't know when that's exactly going to come up, probably during Trump's term. And people who say it's going to impact any election are talking out of their rear end. Abortion was different. A lot more people care about it. Gay marriage is already pretty much codified in every state, for better or worse. And maybe like Utah or Mississippi, it would remain illegal. And even then, they probably would still have civil unions. So it's like people that try to make a big deal about that are just barking up the wrong tree. It's not exactly going to make any difference in the world. I think a lot of people that were opposed to it back in 2009 were softly opposed, and now they're softly approving. This isn't like, one of those things that they can rile up women about. Oh, your rights are being taken away. Right to murder. But they don't see it that way for some reason, because that's what 70 years of socio-cultural conditioning does. Let's see. Agent Gabe has just sent it to you on X. Think Elon is on a yay level crash out. Also for Mason, GB may reunite on camera. KGB are still friends. Yeah, I think that, it's very similar to Kanye's meltdowns. And, I don't know. Is this just like a thing? Because, people actually will say Kanye, and he's crazy, but he is very, he is very intelligent, surprisingly so. Like, if he took an IQ test, he would score much higher than a lot of people would imagine. He's just a crazy person. And Elon, in some regards, is kind of the same way. He's a little, a neurotypical type of guy. He's somebody that, has these crash outs. I wouldn't say it's as bad as Kanye. I think he's also much higher in the IQ department than Kanye. But just like Kanye, I think that he can really rub people the wrong way with his stuff. I don't think he's as egotistical or tries to grab people's attention as much as Kanye does. So I don't think it's a fair 1-to-1, but I understand what you're saying. Walk Talk 21 for 5 says, did you see today the left roasting Eisenhower because of a story that he claims he used to smoke to relax? Must be a slow news day. That surprises me. That surprises me that Eisenhower was up there getting high. That surprises me, but it's not the biggest deal in the world what somebody did 70 years ago. If that's what they're trying to do to knock Republicans is, you're this president, who we like to claim when convenient, by the way, on the left. That's what they do. It's like, he used to smoke he allegedly smoked weed in like 1945. It's like, okay, whatever. Don't these people support that anyways? So why are they upset about it to begin with? John Waffle H2 Pieces, I never really trusted Elon. I always thought they'd have a falling out. I didn't think it would take place within like four or 5 months. I thought it'd be like more like a year. Like I thought Elon would take a step back, but he must not really be liking this bill for those the tax credit removal for the EVs. I don't even care what he says about it. I think in actual action, he's upset about that specifically. So Wesley Bruce for 5 says Jeff Sessions, when he was AG, made Pelosi drop an impeachment. Really, I didn't know about that. I mean, how would that even work? Pelosi wasn't even in charge of the House back then. Matt Gagnon says Elon agreed with Ian Kilometers Chungus, that's my name for him, tweet about impeaching Trump and replacing him with Vance. Elon boost grifters. Oh, so that's the whole Vance thing. Yeah, I think that Elon is just pulling stuff out of thin air because Vance supports the bill just as much as Trump supports the bill. So if Elon actually thinks that, he's just shooting from the hip. He doesn't know what he's exactly doing. And it's not surprising. It's not surprising. American Nerd 1776 for 5 says, I was listening to a stream from Rap earlier about the Musk stuff, and someone said Elon's crash out is similar to Pence's. Well, I mean, Pence was VP, and he didn't really have a public immolation on the timeline like Elon did. So I don't know if they're really that comparable. But we will say that this is the last call for Super Chats because I do want to wrap the stream up within like 5-10 minutes. I know it's late. Although we went live earlier than we usually do, and that's kind of going to be the goal moving forward, 1 to 2 streams a week. We'll go live an hour earlier. We're not going to be doing streams starting at like 11:20 Eastern. I'd rather do them at like 10, if not 9 Eastern. And we got a lot more people today too. I know it was a busy news day, which is why we did get so many people here. I appreciate all the super chats. We'll look in regular chat as well, because we did hit our goal for the last 5 minutes, but feel free to send in super chats. Kyle says he doesn't support the bill. Is there anything you don't support about it, Kyle? I'm curious to find out. He's butthurt about the NASA pick poll. That's also possible. Elon's too attached to the bill. Yeah, for the wrong reasons. Purple Potato says Massey suggested passing SEP. Yeah, okay, and I've said this before. If you do that, you are going to need 60 votes on those bills, and it's much more difficult to get them. So he did put a suggestion out there, separate bills for everything. You're going to get a lot less of those being passed through because now it goes to 60, and you're going to get all the bad stuff, but you'll get none of the good stuff. Yeah, Massey, great idea. Great idea from this guy. Like, I understand the concern. I feel like Massey is somebody that just has a personal gripe with Trump. Same thing with Rand Paul. Rand Paul at least endorsed him in 2016, but maybe it was when Trump said in that debate, yeah, Rand, I never attacked your looks, but there's a lot of subject matter there. And that was funny. I remember seeing that live. It was pretty amusing. But I don't think it's a reason to hold a 10-year grudge with somebody. Bomani Igloo says, I don't know what's going on, just here for the memes. That's fair. That's more than fair. So again, I think people need to understand what's pragmatic and how the system works if you want to enact viable change. I'm not saying we're going to get 100% of what we want. I'm not saying we're going to have to get 0% of what we don't want. There's going to be a little bit of give and take with this Congress. I'm not happy about that, by the way. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't try to improve and change Congress, but you have to take the wins. I think the bill does more good than harm, and that's what I'm going off of when I say it should pass. So American Nerd 76 says, remember when everyone wanted Trump to fire Waltz but gave him the UN post instead? Given what happened to Elon, I think Trump dodged a bigger crash. Interesting. Purple Potato says, so does CR Omnibus September 30th. This is discretionary. Well, there's gonna need to be cuts to discretionary spending, and that's a whole nother talking point. We're gonna get into that with the whole Doge cuts, because that's where you get the Doge cuts. You get the Doge cuts via discretionary spending, because a lot of the Doge cuts were for discretionary. They were not for mandatory. They were not usually about entitlements or about the defense, which I think that there is a lot more subject matter there for that. But when it comes down to illegal aliens on government benefits and abuse of welfare, I'm not saying people who need welfare aren't going to be able to get it, but you're not going to be able to spend money on beer and nicotine and ice cream when you should be spending it on, I don't know, chicken breasts and vegetables and like normal food. And it's like, these arguments these people give, oh, the government's telling me how to spend my money. No, they're telling you how to spend their money, because you're spending money on things the government shouldn't be spending money on. That's it. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated by anybody. It doesn't. So how much of this split is optics to save Tesla? I mean, that might be it, Bomani. I mean, that might be it. I think that that's fair. That's a fair assessment. If it is any 4D chess by Elon might want to take a step back from politics, and he's using this as an excuse. But the bridges he's burning in the process, it's like, I don't think he's going to get the left to buy in or the right to buy in, because at least there was a reason for people who never would have bought a Tesla to buy one. They're probably not too happy about them. So, yeah. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap up the stream in about a minute or so. It'll be the last call, final last call. We'll wrap it up in 2 minutes. We'll go for 2 more minutes here. But let's see what we got. MAGA, not so much. Well, the Republican Party, if they understood that, it wouldn't matter. If they actually answered to that base. And I'm not saying they have to do it in a way that would be unpalatable to people who might not make up that base, but MAGA is a common sense agenda at its core. People use MAGA as some pejorative to call out people in politics who, happen to say things that are a little controversial. Matt Gagnon for 2. I don't need to get into all of that, but I appreciate the super chat. But we're not going to get into that. We're not going to put anyone on blast, okay? It's all fine. It's all good. But let's see. Democrats said they would take Elon back because all of his money they would get. But why? Well, I mean, they said, it was horrible. It was horrible. Horrible thing that Elon Musk was giving money, even though they get money from Soros and all these other people. They have like 1,000 Elons. We have one. It's a problem. We have one. Because they play for keeps. They don't care about being hypocrites. They play for keeps. They understand politics better than we do. And I'm not saying that we should throw out all reason or engage in hypocrisy, but there's things that we can do now. Like when you have people that are inadvertently helping the left under the guise of principles, those people are, I don't care how conservative they actually are personally, they need to go out of public office. Someone said bring on Rufus. Yeah, I mean, Rufus is a clown. Rufus from Twitter, I wouldn't expect to. He's supporting Elon. There's no justification for Elon's crash out. There really isn't. So, and I think it proves a lot of right about people that always talk about IQ, like Rufus, being the be-all and end-all of what makes somebody skilled politically. It doesn't. Like, you could be smart and you could be successful because you have a high IQ. You're going to be capable of working in certain fields that many other people can't, and that's fine. It doesn't mean that you're good at everything. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to predict elections correctly. It doesn't mean that you're able to understand politics correctly or even work some jobs correctly that are usually worked by people with much lower IQs. Elon Musk, I don't think, is going to be capable of being a very good plumber. I just don't. Maybe if he learned, he could find out. But it's like being smart on paper does not mean you're right about everything. It just doesn't. Sven Olsen, Says thoughts on the Democrats jumping ship as of late. If you're talking about the press secretary for Biden, KJP, I mean, she might just be grifting. I don't really trust her as far as I could throw her. I mean, she's not joining the Republicans, but she's like, oh, I'm an independent now. And it's like, you swept it up on a daily basis for the most corrupt establishment administration in the history of politics as one of the most shameless partisan hacks, and now you want to claim that you're some independent. It just makes me think you're a grifter. Because there's no way that you could, if you actually had conviction, you wouldn't put up with that. You weren't being coerced. They didn't even want you up there because you were so bad at your job. They tried to coup you. You fought the coup. You stayed in. It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. Dova Budgie for 2. I think that's going to be the last super chat of the night. We'll wrap it up. Oh, apparently not. Says, my generous donation, hello. Outlaw4188 says, for 2, JD just tweeted an hour ago about Trump. Okay, we got a cavalry of super chats pouring in. Let's see what Vance is saying. Let's see. Well, Vance is definitely standing behind Trump, and we'll pull this up right here. Not a lot of people can say that they are followed by the VP. We're proud to be one of those people. Vance says, President Trump has done more than any person in my lifetime to earn the trust of the movement he leads. I'm proud to stand beside him. So definitely a little bit of a shot at Elon, not too much. It's more of like a support of Donald Trump, saying I stand with Trump, and that's to be expected. He is Trump's VP, and he supports him. I don't think he wants bad blood with Elon. I think he typically would let Trump take the lead when it comes down to all those main insults, as Trump does it better than pretty much anybody. But yeah, that's a good tweet. LinRx52 for 20 says, now everybody knows, if they didn't already, what Trump meant when he said I'm a stable genius. Elon, not so much. Yeah, I mean, people say it's ironic. No, it's true. He's relatively stable. You know, he could have fought back hard, but he chose not to, and he hit back. But you know, you have to hit back, but you can't hit back like that. You know, at the same level as Elon. It just would be like a PR nightmare more so than it would have to be. So I think that's it. I appreciate all the super chats. You guys did great tonight. We're going to wrap it up. Like the stream before you go. Comment, or, well, if you're watching on replay, comment down below. But subscribe to the channel. If you are new, hit that bell so you never miss another video or stream. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.